Well, the first time I don't believe I spoke with you gentlemen, but the first time I heard about this type of project, I thought the same thing. Well, this is dreamland. That's just almost too good to be true. But the more they've talked about it, the more they've explained it, and other counties have been able to use it, it appears that it is a way in order to get the infrastructure in the ground that we many of us as board have said we don't want to keep paying for it. It does allow that to take place by doing something such as this. The risk, the way I see it and the way I've been explained, and we certainly want our county attorneys to look at this, but the way I've been explained, the risk is with the property owners. They either lose their property or they make sure that the debt is repaid.
Right.
And that is not something we have to be concerned with. Just like the State Fair just recently, they went out and borrowed all this money to build that facility in Caroline County. Certainly hate to see them go away, and I just trust that everything's going to work out. But the fact is, they're the ones that lost. Not the county.
I mean, one thing. Some of these issues, as I said, have TIFs, tax increment. Others don't. They're just special assessments, and you want to be careful that you don't give up too much of your general tax revenues. But in many cases, that's what it takes to get the project built. But you want to make sure that, but for giving up that TIF revenue, the project wouldn't be built, and that the county is better off for it to be built.
Right.
And much of the success comes back to the actual real estate project. And does the county want the project? And their market studies that speak to the viability of the project, their appraisals that look at the value within the CDA. So a lot of it comes back to the real estate project.
So let me just make sure I have this straight in my mind. You talk about a TIF and an assessment. So does the county collect any real estate tax while this is in force or while this infrastructure is being paid for?
Generally, yeah. Well, yes. You collect the full amount of property taxes based upon whatever the assessed value times your tax rate. Then you keep at a minimum, if it's a TIF, you keep at a minimum the amount of taxes that were being based upon the assessed value of the property at the time that the district was created. So if it was raw land, it probably wasn't paying a whole lot of taxes, but you'd keep that minimum amount. And then if it takes, let's say, $100 to pay the debt service and the taxes generate $150, you keep the $50 extra.
But if the taxes only generate $50 and the developer pays the additional $50.
Correct.
That's what the TIF and the assessment.
That's under the TIF, right?
Yeah, that's only under the TIF.
Under the special assessment, that is a special assessment on the property itself.
Right.
And all of that would go toward the retirement of the debt.
Correct.
And the county would continue to collect the tax revenue.
Yeah, would keep the regular property taxes, right. Yes.
So my risk is, I'm kind of risk averse.
Yep.
My risk is really limited because the property owners are basically putting up their property as collateral.
Yes.
Not that their property is going to be worth $20 or $30 million, but that's part of collateral.
Right.
You're going to go out in your best salesmanship role and sell these bonds.
Right.
And then the county will get back the same amount of real estate tax it's been getting.
Right.
But if it takes 20, 30, 40 years before you pay back the CDA, then after that money, then we'll get all the revenue? You
get all the revenue.
And only after the CDA is paid
Well,
back?
except if during the amortization period, if the amount that's collected is more than is needed for debt service in that year, then you get the excess.
Okay. And standard bond rate, you're doing 20 years, 30 years?
30 years.
30 years?
30 years.
Can I ask about New Kent County?
Yep.
That is a rural county that somewhat
Yep.
like Caroline,
Yep.
About the same size. The farms of New Kent.
Yep, we're familiar
Is
with
that one of the ones that's been successful?
It's a struggling one. That's a struggling one, but they're not in default.
Is that the one that was owned by Blue Green or something? Is that the same one? It was.
No,
I do
no,
not know this.
no,
It is
no.
not, okay.
Republic Land and Bodie Knoll.
I got you.
And that was, a residential project that started in 2005.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
That-
Okay, let's have one
I'll just
conversation.
point out, that was a residential project that started in 2005, so it has had stress, and they've had trouble selling homes, but there have been no payment defaults. The developers have been.
So it's
paying
strictly
themselves.
residential,
Yes,
no
sir.
commercial?
No, no, no,
Small-
no, no,
small.
no, primarily residential, but,
Right.
yeah,
Okay,
but some commercial.
he says no. I know Blue Green had one down there, please.
I guess my question is then, the only way that we really would not benefit, and let me spin this the other way, is if the first part of the project was residential at all, apartments, condos, houses. Because then our infrastructure costs are up front, and the tax revenue's on the back side of this. So the only way the county, well, we'd have to do schools, which wouldn't fall under the CDA. We'd have to do all the things in the county that we'd have to do, and there would be no additional revenue because that's being kept to pay the CDA
But the
until those
profits-
bonds are paid.
If you did a TIF, I mean, typically
There's no
TIFs
profit on
are
that.
done for commercial projects and not for residential. And just straight assessment, special assessments are done for residential, if you're doing a residential.
And Mr. Seeley, if I may, that's part of that detail that you read before. This is a bad deal. The county feels that's not a good deal. Approve it.
Because the proffers that exist on Carmel Church Station are non-existent in terms of return on any dwelling. So if there's any residential, we're on the wrong side of this all the way down to the end.
You have that determination. As I mentioned, there are tax studies that look at the taxes generated from the project, and they factor in the cost of police service and other services.
And schools.
So that they look at that and say, are there taxes generated above and beyond those costs? But you have that control. It's your decision.
Okay.
What other proffers on Carmel Church Station? That's one that's been thrown out here. Mr. Finch, what other proffers on that?
Mr. Chairman, if I recall correctly, the cash proffer started at $5,000 per dwelling unit, which is the highest cash proffer that the board has ever accepted. Given the large number of multifamily, i.e. condo and/or apartments, the estimated student generation rate was significantly lower with this project, which helped back into the cash proffer figure. I think Mr. Seeley's correct in that if you thought based on the average student generation rate of a half a child per dwelling or one school-age child per dwelling, the school-age numbers would be fairly high. And based upon that calculation, you would not have enough in the way of proffers to offset the school impacts. The proffers also speak to commercial development commensurate with the residential development so that there is a true mix, and it's not all residential dwelling or residential construction from day one, which is where we routinely see the negative impacts of development. But if there was a conventional development scenario, yes, we would significantly be behind the eight ball in terms of tax rate or impacts on our tax rate attributable to development.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions by the board about the developing CDA?
I think this one, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I think this one probably I love your presentation, but I would like to look at it a little more, so go to a second reading as opposed to right to public hearing, because I think there's some other questions. So, yeah, I think a second reading would be good if that's you need a motion or anything.
Yeah, but in the process, we probably need to get the county attorney involved to look at this process and to make sure that the county is not obligated in any way. And we won't take forever. We need to move ahead with this, with whatever it is that we're going to do with this particular issue. So it's not going to be lingering for months. Hopefully we'll get this out within 60 to 90 days. We'll get this out so that we can move ahead and whatever is going to be done. Okay? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you tremendously being here and your presentation. And we will, is that going to be enough time, Mrs. Crosby, to look at it? Okay. And then if you have any questions, it would probably be good to submit them to Mr. Cully. Mr. Cully will forward them to Ann, and we'll go from there. Okay? And we'll bring this project back first meeting in August. Okay.
You want to do the second reading in July and then do the public hearing in August?
We can do that. We can do that if you want to. Take enough time. We're going to have quite a few public hearings on the 28th or the 31st or whatever the date is.
Whatever the
Is that what you
majority
want?
wants to do.
Is that what you want to do? Bring it back on the last meeting as far as discussion, further discussion, the last meeting in July and a public hearing, first meeting in August? Is that what we're looking at?
I mean, that's basically 6 weeks between now and the second reading.
She can do it. Let's do it. Let's go with it. So we will have a second reading on the last meeting in July. All right. Thank you. Item number 10, proposed renegotiation of agreement with schools for use of Diversified Learning Center.
When
Mr. Cully?
when the cuts were developed for the $825,000, one of them that was recommended was the Diversified Learning Center money. Was approximately almost $30,000 a year, and that was my understanding. That was set up because there was a plan to move some county officers over to that building, treasurer, commissioner, revenue, that type of thing. It was never developed. Satellite offices, that's correct, and remote was what I was trying to think of. And so we've basically been using the building the way that we were using the building prior to the agreement being developed, which that was use of the gym and the fields for no money, payments to the schools. So we need to renegotiate this agreement. Obviously, that may be some other interest in the building from the community college. It's a 6-month requirement in that agreement to get out of that. So we're probably going to have to pay some money for use of the facility to the schools unless they let us out of that agreement earlier. But we do need to do something with that. We've cut the money out, but we really have an agreement that says we'll be using the facility and continuing to use the facility. So we would like to be authorized to try to renegotiate that on behalf of the board. I don't know if we can get back to the agreement that you all had prior to this agreement, but that would certainly be nice.
My concern with that, to be quite honest, is the fact that we're now saying basically we're going to cut the schools another $30,000 because I'm sure they use this as revenue source. And so, I think that I'm not sure that $30,000 is going to make a lot of difference to them, but I think it could. And I don't know that we need to, at this point, do anything to renegotiate this particular agreement. It may be better to let them know that we are going to look at renegotiating this agreement at some other later and make it effective July 1 of next year. That's my view. Mr. Thomas.
Do we have, with this agreement, do we have the ability to sublet our side? And I thought we did, but if we do, I mean, I don't necessarily like to pay for something and get nothing in return, but I understand what we're saying is that's another $30,000 cut. It's money in, money out. It's the same pocket, or same pair of pants, different pockets. But it doesn't matter. But I just want to know if we can sublet it if we find maybe the community college or a business or something else, something compatible with the school use that could generate for them more than $30,000. So can you find that out? Are you reading fast enough?
I like the idea of the community college because, of course, if we recall, the space that we were to use kept moving down further. You know, it started out at the hallway, and then it moved down to the library, past the library, and then the last I heard, it was down to the hallway that used to go to the old cafeteria. So I'm not sure where the dividing line is to what the county was leasing or renting and versus what was being used by the school system. So I'm just not sure where we stand there. But again, I like the idea of providing that space because it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 classrooms there that could be used for the community college if they would agree to do that. So I like that idea a lot.
And if I could add, Mr. Chairman, if we're not using this space and the schools are using the other space for whatever purpose they are, then we could basically offer this to the community college right away. If we can sublet it and if we can offer it to them right away, we'd have at least a year where we're going to pay the $30,000. They get basically rent-free so they can move in and then plan for expansion. Maybe it's a win-win for all of us. They get to keep $30,000. Maybe we get somebody in there and future expansion. So
we do use
that's
it.
all.
We do use it, Jim,
Right.
and we do use the fields.
That's correct.
The fields we do use.
And we had those for free for Parks and Recs anyhow.
We
'cause
did.
It's the same people that are in the schools are in Parks and Rec.
That's correct. And then there's some summer programs, I think, will run out of some of the classrooms,
Right.
but only summer. Most of the rest of the year, I don't think it was any use of the building, the
The
best I
summer
could
program
determine.
was run out of that school.
Right, the best I could determine weren't needed.
So you want them to negotiate based on those parameters?
Just from a quick scan of the agreement, I see some language in here that references the gymnasium. It says that found it here, notwithstanding the foregoing, the school, let's see, the right to authorize use of the gymnasium by third parties for user fee is provided to the county under the agreement. But it appears to be limited to the gymnasium.
I think we were talking about the leagues, you know, with the rec department, things of
Yeah.
that nature. So it's limited. And that may be something we can negotiate with the school board, as and the chairman of the school board is here. Maybe that's something we can negotiate that can happen. We continue to pay the $30,000, but we're able to allow the community college to use that side of the school. I don't know.
Can we ask, based on those, ask them to
Absolutely.
negotiate? We're good to go? Okay.
But we're not going to execute this right now. Okay,
No, we're not going to say 6 months we're out.
right.
We're probably saying we're going to be there for the whole year.
Yeah.
So we're good.
All right. County administrators report. Mr. College?
I don't have anything to report, but one, we did do a
Remind them about
emergency
Jeff's date
operations test
changes.
last week for radiation exercise in Lakesville, where we actually had people representing, state representative, hadn't been one done in 5 years. We actually had a person come in from the state that was a victim. All of the various things they had to do with contaminated the patient and actually transported to ECU Medical, where they had to decontaminate through all their parts of it. Other than some stickers on some of the radiation detection equipment, we paid to have it calibrated with the sticker ones, right? The people representative, folks did a wonderful job and everything correctly. So as part of the North Carolina, we're in that area in one of our evaluations. So it's an interesting exercise. I have a lot of experience in hurricanes and ice storms with front hill section. We don't have much to do with radiation, thank goodness. So it's a little bit of a learning experience for me. But it's good to see all of our professional folks out there doing the things they're supposed to do, doing it correctly as far as business is concerned. Good exercise. Thank you.
Mr. Black, closing comments?
I just want to kind of clarify with the dates. Are we
Yeah,
okay
right.
with, are we okay with
Say those again?
the 24th, the date of the 24th to the 31st of July, if that's okay with everyone?
Board have any issues with moving the 24th meeting to the 31st meeting? Nope. All right.
And then the December 11th one to either the 4th or the 18th. I'm sure you want to go to the 4th.
Absolutely, to the 4th.
Yeah,
All
4th.
right. All right, Mr. Cully, if you would, be need to advertise that the board meeting will be moved from the 24th to the 31st of July, and from the 11th to the 4th of December.
Mr. Chairman, also, if you guys are interested in the, and I'm going to send an invitation out to the sheriff as well as, I think Mr. Cully's to the sheriff as well as the fire chief, that is July the 6th, the North Anna Power Plant. If the supervisors are interested in going on that tour, it's at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So they need, please contact Mr. Cully as soon as possible because they need security information, obviously, you know, so forth, to get people in.
All right. Mr. Taylor?
No, I don't.
Mr. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir.
Mr. Thomas?
No, sir.
And I have no closing comments either. Is there a closed meeting in order?
All right.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Thomas. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Yes.
Board is adjourned.